There's big news in the Formula One world, but you don't have to get into it on this show.
Yeah, it was racism, right?
I got it.
It's crazy.
Got into the semantics of Portuguese in the group chat yesterday.
I sent it to, or I mentioned it to Woody yesterday, and I said the only part I don't understand, and just maybe you know, the thing happened in November. Why is it a news story now?
I think so. The clip was the Formula One driver who said the racist comment was on a show. Nelson Piquet or Piquet? I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Well, it's Portuguese, so like, is it a hard T or is it Piquet? It's spelled French, but yeah.
There's like a lot of like.
There's a hard something in that.
Yeah. Roy.
Hubba?
He said it on a podcast in November, and then it resurfaced online in March. I think it was published in March or something, and then it like kind of resurfaced like a week ago. And I think it might have resurfaced because there was a big scandal in Formula 2 with Red Bull's development driver who said the N-word on a Call of Duty stream last week, and he got suspended. So I don't know if that's why this clip resurfaced or if it was just a coincidence, but so there was this other racism thing happening in Formula 2 with Red Bull, and then this clip kind of resurfaced like earlier this week, and then it finally, like, enough people were kind of talking about it on like message boards and stuff, and it kind of came out, and then Lewis Hamilton tweeted about it, and then everyone else started tweeting about it.
So basically, Lewis Hamilton stumbled upon it, and now it's. I don't
know if he saw it first or if another team tweeted about it first. I don't know whose tweets came first, because it was all. This happened like before I woke up yesterday, because they're all in the UK and Europe and stuff. But it was crazy.
The other thing I haven't seen, I've tried to Google, I looked around, I don't know what the word is. It's not the N-word. It's like a Portuguese version of the N-word.
Yeah, I've read that. So Nelson Piquet said that he didn't use it as a slur, and it's a word that means like little boy. But then I've also read other Brazilian speakers say that the way he used it was extremely derogatory, because he referred to all the other drivers by their names, but he referred to Lewis Hamilton as this word.
Right.
And so I don't speak Portuguese, obviously.
But your sister does.
My sister does. She doesn't. I don't think she speaks Brazilian Portuguese, though. I feel like there's a difference. But I don't know. I obviously, if Lewis Hamilton took it as a slur and all these other people are saying it's a slur, like, it's a slur. So
the other thing was like the guy's family all doubled down, right?
So like someone posted an Instagram post that appeared to be a relative of him, and then his daughter liked that post. And now this is the part that's kind of like crazy. This driver who said the derogatory slur about Lewis Hamilton, his daughter is dating Max Verstappen, who is the guy who is Lewis Hamilton's biggest rival.
And the guy that in the actual wreck in question that the guy was talking about, right? It was
like his daughter's boyfriend was in the wreck that was with Lewis Hamilton last year in Silverstone, which is the race that's coming up this weekend on Sunday. So maybe that's why it resurfaced, because it's about what happened last year at this race, and now it's the lead up to that race this year. I don't know, but anyways, so Lewis Hamilton tweeted about it, and then Formula One tweeted about it, but they didn't say the driver's name, who said, like, the retired driver.
Nelson
Piquet. And then the FIA tweeted about it. They also didn't say his name. Red Bull, like, never released a statement. A bunch of other teams kind of released statements, and a bunch of other drivers, like, offered support. I also heard that the retired driver might get banned from, like, future events for it. But then he put out an apology, I think this morning, that said that he's sorry, but he didn't mean it in the way that everyone is interpreting it, which is like kind of like a non-apology apology.
Sorry, not sorry. From the
right, because it's like, okay, well, clearly it's like, I obviously don't speak the language, but when I hit Google Translate on my Twitter app, it translated it into the N-word. So
really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I was like, okay.
I do also want to offer some more context. So last week there is a noted Formula One figure, Sir Jackie Stewart, who said it's time for Lewis to resign. The rag trade would be absolutely suitable for him.
What's the rag trade?
Like
media?
No. Like, well, maybe.
I thought he meant like tabloids.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Rags.
I thought Rags is like he would.
Lewis Hamilton's the only black Formula One driver. He's faced like a tremendous amount of discrimination and racism his entire career. He's also tried to do a lot for the sport in terms of like making it more inclusive. He's gotten in trouble for wearing jewelry. He's gotten in trouble for wearing shirts that had Breonna Taylor's face on it. He knelt during the anthem in 2020 after George Floyd was murdered. And like he is one of the only black drivers in motorsport, and certainly the only one in Formula One. He's also the most successful driver of all time. Like he has earned a level of respect that he still is not getting from peers and from people who came before him, because all they can do is just constantly shit on him at every turn. Like it's incredible. But he even like, despite that, last year he commissioned an entire report about how to create more diversity and inclusion in motorsport, and has like taken time out of what I'm sure could be an amazing, awesome life to work towards solving some of these issues. And he's always been very outspoken and kind of speaking his mind. When Formula One goes to countries where there's human rights violations, he will be very outspoken about it. So yeah, like this just keeps happening to him. And so he tweeted that this isn't just like this isn't just like a few words. This is just an archaic mindset that needs to change. And it's not going to change if we just talk about it. Like there needs to be action taken. He didn't say like what action he would like to see happen, but something needs to happen clearly in his mind, because just saying like we support Lewis isn't really going to do anything for him to stop this.
It's kind of funny because it's one of those things where sports in Europe have like an incredible amount of racism that I don't know the average American sports fan knows. Like overt racism that happens from the crowd, that happens from the other competitors, that happens from the coaches.
Happens from historical figures or like figures from the past.
Yep. And it's a very, in a weird way, in America, it's almost like we're in season like 7 million of racism, right? So it's like our racism is nuanced and it's like undertones. It's over there, it's still kind of blunt, like, yeah, the N-word did this, like, or like people throwing bananas and making monkey noises at black players and stuff like that. And I think, I think it eludes the average American sports fan how racist it is over there for black athletes.
Yeah, and like you just know when certain teams go to certain places, like when England goes to Hungary or England goes to Bulgaria, there are going to be problems. Like Italy, right?
Italy's bad.
Italy's
man.
bad, especially like the hardened supporter sections,
Yep.
like the ultras they call
ultras,
them.
yeah.
Like they are so racist. It's flabbergasting. And you're right. Like in America, obviously racism is an enormous problem, but it's like slightly more subtle in a way.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't hear that in an
the
NBA
whole
arena.
Colin Kaepernick thing.
No, but still.
Well,
but
no, I think you would in Boston, Woody. I mean,
Boston would be the
Boston athletes have admitted to hearing it.
Yeah, Boston would be, but like you wouldn't, for instance, at a Cincinnati Reds game, you wouldn't hear the crowd just start chanting the N-word, right, when someone comes up to the plate. That just doesn't happen, right? So even Kaepernick, which is absolute racism and all that, but it's still, there's a subtlety there, a kind of not like an outward blatant, that N-word needs to, like, it's not that, right? It doesn't make it any less racist, but it's just not the same kind of packaging, or should I say, it has a packaging that does not exist in Europe. When they're racist, they're just racist. They're not even trying to make it seem like, no, I'm defending the flag and the troops and like that. We do that shit here. Over there, just like monkey and throw a banana at someone. That's how they do there.
I guess you could argue, though, I mean, and not to get too controversial, that like we have an entire collegiate sports system here that Europe doesn't have, that is pretty exploitative of mostly black athletes. So I don't know. I hear what you're saying. Like maybe it's not as explicit.
Right. I'm not doing racist Olympics. I'm just saying, like, right. It's packaged here in a way that allows. It's almost like it allows for the alibi of like, I'm not racist. I just think they're getting a free education. So what's the deal? I'm not racist. I just think that the troops are dying on, because of that flag and that anthem, and you should stand. I'm not racist. There's a veneer there that they walk away around, even though what you're describing just is accurate. It's systemic racism on a industrial level, right?
Multi-billion-dollar level,
right?
Yeah.
Over there, that veneer doesn't exist. It's just straight up like I said, they throw a banana and say monkey, and that's it. I
also think it's fascinating, as it relates to this particular Formula One controversy, like just how staunchly in like another era that sport has existed, and it's one of the things that Formula One has been packaged really nicely for the United States, and there's a cool Netflix show, and the TV experience looks awesome, and it looks like this really cool, great thing, but its history is rooted in classism, racism. They do all kinds of deals with governments to hold races in places that are not exactly the best with human rights, and
right.
you end up realizing, this sport is rooted in a lot of ugly shit.
Yeah, as are a lot of
major institutions
that make a lot of money. It's like it's got to be on someone's back, right? It's also got to be done with the idea that to keep the status quo. That's a big thing about a lot 100%. Of these institutions is that it's not just way back when we were doing so, but now we're fine. No, it's also designed to continue the status quo. I can apologize, I could put out a statement, but what we're not going to do is actually have a lot more diversity in the either in ownership or even in the case of Formula One on the track.
I've always thought about as an athlete how difficult it must be to operate in that system where the sport has given you so much, it's given you the platform, it's given you just hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm sure, and fame, and you're so successful at it, and yet the very thing that has done so much for you also hates you or doesn't want you to really be part of that club as much as it would if you were someone else, and how kind of confusing that must be. And I don't know, I'm not saying that this is how Lewis Hamilton feels, but it just does feel like it would be so difficult to have a certain identity in one of these institutions or systems and have to kind of grapple with that every day. Not
to mention how lonely it is, right?
And to almost feel singularly responsible for its change,
yep.
right? To feel like I have the weight of this sport on my shoulders to try and make it not 95% right. white in the driver ranks, and I imagine even more white in the garages as well.
And when you have that burden, there's also that feeling of I don't get to take a day off.
Yeah,
I don't get to just be Lewis Hamilton and have fun, right? I every day I have to work towards this goal, because if it's not me, literally no one else is going to do it.
Well, according to Jess, he did once jump out of an airplane 40 times in one day. So
yeah, he goes skydiving all the time. He loves skydiving.
Do you guys think Tiger carried some of that around in terms of golf? Do you think it was lonely for Tiger at times?
No,
because he was widely accepted, wasn't he?
I from watching all the Tiger documentary stuff and reading Wright Thompson stuff, I don't get that feeling at all. I don't get quite the opposite. I get the feeling that he was, I'm black, but I'm also, he's kind of trying to figure out ways to not have that burden. And by the way, it makes sense that the people that he sought out to hang out with, Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley, were people who, in different ways, were very outspoken about I'm not, Charles, I'm not a role model, and Michael, Republicans buy sneakers too. That's a whole combo of people I don't have that burden to bring about social change. I'm just here to be great at my sport.
I feel like Tiger did have that responsibility, though. But I just listening to you guys, because I'm not that familiar with F1 and Lewis Hamilton and the whole story. It seems like Lewis Hamilton is carrying around a burden and perhaps an unhappiness that Tiger Woods never had to carry around for whatever reason. Because I do feel, although I'm certain Tiger went through stuff at certain tournaments where things were said to him by people in the gallery.
But
Tiger was wanted, beloved, and widely accepted in a sport that is predominantly white and still is.
But Stugotz, this is what I would say. I say one, like I said, I don't feel like Tiger ever felt the burden of having to do that. Now, inadvertently, he did diversify golf, something that he got a whole generation of people interested in it that weren't before because they saw someone that looks like them on TV. But
Right.
I don't think he was out here like doing clinics, in the cities, in black neighborhoods and stuff like that. Number one. Number two, in terms of, again, you remember at the beginning, it was kind of a little bit of a freak show. And remember the whole Fuzzy Zeller thing? It's like, because the winner of the Masters gets to pick the menu next year. And Fuzzy Zeller said, I guess we're going to have like fried chicken and collard greens. And, he just,
I think Sergio Garcia said that, didn't he?
Sergio Garcia.
There might have been multiple incidents. Yeah.
He definitely went through some stuff, especially earlier. Obviously, as the further along he goes and the undeniable greatness he had, the less I think he had to encounter it, which is what makes Lewis Hamilton, that's very interesting, Jess, to me. They're like, this dude is the greatest of all time, and it's still dealing with people like, this.
But I mean, like, instead of the getting beaten down by the greatness, it's almost as though like the old stodgy figures resent it more. Like, as he continues to win and use his platform to talk about social issues, they resent him even more. It's not like the success hasn't beaten them; it's made them more aggressive towards him in a weird way.
So, question: if he were of the Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan kind of like apolitical, not socially active person, but he was just like great, do you think he'd be more widely accepted and beloved in the sport?
I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I haven't been a Formula One fan for very long, but I do know that like early on in his career, before he was like, as outspoken, I would guess on those issues, he was still seen as like kind of a person that people didn't like. Like, there were all these on-track controversies that he was part of when he was at McLaren, and so I don't really know, Amin, to answer your question. Like, that might be a great question to ask someone who's been watching for a long time, but I do think I don't think that is the case, but I think the other thing that's interesting about this is that like Lewis is still kind of like, he's definitely older. He's one of the older drivers on the grid, and he's maybe towards the end of his career, but though he's not really said anything about retiring yet, he is still kind of in the middle of it. Like, less than a year ago, he was racing for his 8th championship, which would have put him over the record for most championships in a career. So he's still like kind of in the middle of his prime where he could win another championship. This year, if his car was better, he would certainly be, neck and neck again with Max Verstappen. He's still an amazing driver. So he's still like kind of in the middle of all of this. And this most recent, the most recent issues that he's have been in the last year with the Silverstone race. He got tons of racist comments after that. F1 had to make a statement about it. It was like a whole thing. It was a whole, like, they asked Red Bull's team principal about it afterwards, and he said like, oh, well, our driver is getting a lot of negative comments too. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure that's true, but it's not the same kind of comments. Like, it's, negative comments towards a white driver and racist comments towards a black driver are kind of on different levels. Right. Although you probably should just not tweet things at any athletes at any point. Like, it's just not, you can't really make the same comparison, I think. So like a lot of it has been more recent, and I think as he's become more and more outspoken and really like put his convictions out into the world, like I do think it just causes more and more ire and angst, and all those things are still ongoing.
By the way, Stugotz, I'm tired of the Yankees.
Why?
They're complaining about the strike zone. Like, you've won 600 games this year, okay? Like, you're doing just fine. Enough.
Did you see the umpire like purposely? He wasn't punching Aaron Judge out. He was punching Aaron Boone out. Did you notice that?
Enough with Boone.
But
don't mention Aaron Boone's name around me.
Billy, I feel like this year has been the pinnacle of umpire scrutiny. That in my life, I have never heard so much about umpires getting calls wrong, and now there's a scorecard that tells me the number of balls and strikes that the umpires have gotten wrong, and the players are complaining, the managers are complaining, the commentators are complaining. Like, have we crossed the Rubicon with the umpires where we just got to do robot umps so that everyone can shut up?
You know what I think we should do is get rid of the little box on the screen, and then no one will be complaining. If the box is gone on the screen, everyone won't complain about every single ball and strike.
But there's
a lot faster.
There's a box in the MLB at Bat app. There's a there's a Twitter account that keeps track of balls and strikes.
Enough. I know, and Mike Schur, it's Mike Schur's Twitter account because that's all he tweets about is balls and strikes all day long.
It is.
The last 2 days I've come off as very anti Mike Schur when I don't think that like anything could be. I really like him, but like yesterday I was trying to get Amin to call him overrated because Amin was saying that he didn't really like some of his shows, even though he liked Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I said I haven't watched a lot of the shows. Is what I'm saying.
Let's do a Mike Schur appreciation 5 minutes.
Okay,
Mike Schur,
opposite.
Funny guy.
Oh my God, he's hilarious. I love his weekend observations.
Nice guy, sure.
Love
He
Brooklyn
seems
Nine-Nine.
nice in the minimum times I've met him, but also like when you meet people so few times, they usually put their best face forward. So
He wrote a book.
Not as good as Bill Lawrence, but he's all
He was
right.
really nice when he was writing a glowing article about this radio show.
Oh my
I
God!
enjoyed it.
I've told the story before, but I'll tell it one more time. So I talked to him for like an hour for that article, and I didn't know who he was because they told me someone was writing for Slate. So I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll give him all the time." And we're trying to coordinate. And he says, "Oh," I said, "How does 1 o'clock sound?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I'll do it during my lunch break." And I'm like, "Okay, the guy probably has like another job, and he writes for Slate on the side or whatever." And so, okay, he's squeezing out some time to write this. Like, cool. So I'm explaining things to him about show bits, and I'm explaining things to him like about TV. It's live, so we don't really have an opportunity to like go back or whatever. And all the time I'm thinking like this is some, college grad or something like that. And then like a few weeks later, I'm with Pablo Torre, and Pablo said, "Did you talk to Mike?" And I said, "Mike who?" He says, "Mike Schur." I says, "Who the fuck is Mike Schur?" And he says, "Mike Schur, the creator of Parks and Rec and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he was an executive producer on The Office." And I'm like, "Oh my God, whoa! No, why would he talk to me?" And he said, "He's writing an article for Slate about the Le Batard Show." And I said, "Oh dear God."
So you like mansplained what live to tape means?
Here's the thing, kid.
1,000, yeah, 1,000. I talked to him like he was a
One day you'll make it in
kid.
this business, and you'll see this is a microphone and a cough button.
I might as well have been chomping a cigar while I talked to him. This is how things happen. See, I was so. In retrospect, I don't think I meant to do it, but I must have come off as so condescending.
You
to
ain't
this
got it,
titan.
kid. I could just tell by the look of yous.
Wait, do we like Mike Schur or not? What is happening here?
Should I put it on the poll?
Please do that, Billy.
Do we like Mike
Do
Schur?
not do they like Mike Schur? Do we like Mike Schur? Okay.
You have to include the what is happening here.
I love Mike Schur. I mean, I
love him
don't know.
too. I love him too. He's a great guy, and he's a TV comedic genius, and
Right.
we're lucky to have a relationship with him. But also, I had no idea who he was until Pablo Torre pointed it out.
Is he a TV comedic genius though? Like, would you
Dude.
classify him? Because I'm
Dude,
kind of
Stugotz.
like,
Come on, like
Stugotz, he's at like 4 hit shows now. Come on.
this is like
Right,
asking if
right,
Dick Wolf is a police procedural genius. Yes.
yeah, you had no idea who he was. I mean, 5 minutes ago.
I mean, a lot of people won't know who Dick Wolf is, but like once someone says to
Kidding
you,
me? The man has like 15 shows
I know, but
at
a
the
lot.
same time.
Never heard of him.
See,
Wow.
look, Stugotz
Dick,
doesn't
you've
know.
never heard of Dick Wolf?
Who's Dick Wolf?
He's the guy
I
behind
mean-
the Law and Order franchise and
Yeah.
now the Chicago franchise.
Oh, I love those franchises. Yeah, but I have no idea who makes the franchise. I enjoy the show. Like, I love the FBI's. I don't know who created them.
But
you
after
know?
they do, Amin does a great version of the Law and Order intro. After the Law and Order intro, they go to a blank slate, and then it says executive producer Dick Wolf. Like I swear,
I don't think he's real.
really.
Dick Wolf?
I don't think Dick Wolf's a real person. I think that they were going through and they're like, you know what? We need to kind of fill up this screen. We can't just make it seem like this is like this show that only has like 2 people working on it. Let's just make up names. And they're like, what's a funny name? It's like,
Like a composite of like several other producers.
Yeah, yeah.
Combine
Like, what's
it and
a-
make Dick
So this is
Wolf.
like a
Yeah,
Dear
they-
Abby situation.
Hold on.
Exactly right. That is exactly right.
Now, Billy-
they just invented Dick Wolf, and then now they're like 40 shows in, and they're like, we're stuck.
I
We're
see.
stuck with
I
Dick
like to
Wolf.
think about the opposite. That Dick Wolf is real, but he's not like this genius. He's just like he created Law and Order, and then he's like, what if we just did it with the sex crimes? And that's it. Executive producer Dick Wolf. That's all he did. That's his whole contribution was
just slight tweaks of the one thing he did that was successful.
What if we did it but in Chicago?
I mean, let's be real.
That's network TV, baby.
Law and Order is just Dick Wolf read the newspaper, picked one crime from the newspaper, and put it on television, right?
All right, let me do the opening for Stugotz and Jess, who weren't here yesterday.
Okay.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police, who investigate crime, and the district attorneys, who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
It's excellent.
Oh, this is the SVU one. In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as a Special Victims Unit. These are their stories.
I love that these are their stories. It's so good.
These are their stories. It's the best.
So good.
Does Chicago have an intro like that or no?
I don't think so.
Stugotz is the only one who watches
In the
it,
city of
allegedly.
Chicago.
I don't watch the Chicagos. That's Stan Van Gundy. I watch the FBI's. And the executive producer came up with FBI. It was a hit show. And what they did was, he's not a genius. He came up with a hit show on network television. And then he came up with FBI International, FBI's 10 Most Wanted. To your point, I think that's exactly what happened.
Oh
with
my
Dick
God.
Wolf.
He did. No, Dick Wolf did FBI as well.
Really?
Yes, the creator and executive producer of FBI franchise.
Shut up.
Which since 2018 has also become a franchise after spinning off 2 additional series. That's amazing.
There is nobody who's contributed more to network television than Dick Wolf. And TNT reruns.
Huh.
Is it someone at TNT is just like,
what else you got?
one.
What else you got, Dick?
We'll get to it.
But Aaron Spelling, I feel
We
like
gotta
he
start Aaron
probably has
Chan.
done more, no?
Did you see what Dick Wolf has in the chamber? A meme coming out, TBA on Peacock.
What's that?
Law and Order, hate crimes.
No.
That's a thing.
Say what you want about him. The guy is a genius, though.
Hold on.
Seriously.
Hold on. Law and Order organized crime coming soon.
What?
Oh my God.
Law and Order for the defense coming soon.
What a defense.
For the defense. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was announced that it would not move forward. Never.
Oh, man.
Wait, we're
One
seeing
strike.
we're seeing in the chat that Organized Crime is already out and it's in season 2.
Wow.
Bad marketing. I haven't heard of it.
Yep.
It's bad marketing.
Says
on
here
their
that
But
was-
Dick Wolf
this could be
doesn't give a
home run.
shit. He's laughing all the way to the bank. He's a one-trick
Oh,
pony.
yeah.
This Dick Wolf.
Says
What
here
a big pony.
says here that one's also on Peacock.
Okay, here we go. In the nation's largest city, the vicious and violent members of the underworld are hunted by the detectives of the Organized Crime Control Bureau. These are their stories. Wow, Christopher Maloney reprising his role as Elliot Stabler, a veteran detective who returned to the NYPD in New York following his wife's murder. Stabler joins the Organized Crime Task Force led by Sergeant Ayanna Bell.
Well, this also happened with NCIS, right? One of the blokes from that show ended up starting his own series called Bull, right? And then
DiNozzo.
Yeah, that's
Saw them
like
shooting that
terrible
once in
show.
City
that's
Hall.
like its own thing.
Terrible.
What, Bull or NCIS?
Yeah, that's a terrible show. That should have been canceled. They had problems on that set.
NCIS?
No, Bull.
Bull?
What
What were the problems, Roy?
There was some
You know.
bullying on the set.
Right.
Yeah, with one of the female co-stars, and she
Dennis
quit.
Leary is in Law and Order Organized Crime. I don't feel like there's anyone who's been more qualified to be in a Law and Order than Dennis Leary.
Oh, I love that guy. That should be good.
It's
I'm reading about Law and Order hate crimes, and
Uh-huh.
it says that in 2018 it was announced, and then they sent it back in 2019 and said that they needed to flesh out the concept. And it kind of seems like I get the concept.
Hate
We know
crimes.
what the show's gonna be, right? It's gonna be Law and Order, but with hate crimes, right?
Yes.
these are their stories.
Yeah, that is a vastly underused device. Like the intro, that's just like a very baritone man's voice.
Introsposition with the little narrator exposition in there as
The
well.
theme song is dead, right? The television theme song?
Oh, yeah. No, we've talked
Yeah.
about this before. We've done this bit where we talked about there was a time where if you had a TV show there's no way in hell you could just trot it out there and not have music accompanying it with lyrics, right? And then over time, like, I think Seinfeld was the one that was just like, just get to the show. Like, they're like, well, just play underneath. Wow, because at first Seinfeld had a full-on intro with that bum 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 bum, and it was
stand-up
starring Jerry Seinfeld and Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Jason Alexander. And then like season 2, they were like, just play the music underneath and let's start the show.
They did like it would play like Jerry Seinfeld stand-up clips.
Yes,
and then have the music underneath that.
Right, and then
HBO
it was just,
was on a heater though with like the best theme intros of all time from like 2005 to like 2018.
A little bit earlier than that. You got to count in Oz. Bum 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 bum.
Okay,
It's a sensual dance that you're doing.
It's a show about prison.
All right, round the room. You hear the HBO static. What's the next sound you hear in your head?
Woke up this morning.
What?
Right. Okay. So
Not
no.
myself
So no.
a
That's
gun.
what I'm saying. All right. So after
That's
you hear
tonight.
the what's the next sound you hear? I mean,
it's way down in the hole. Dum, dum, dum.
which show is that?
The Wire.
Oh.
You gotta keep the devil.
Roy, you just did Last Week Tonight.
That's right. Yeah, last week tonight.
Yes. First. You did The Sopranos.
Woke up this morning.
Billy. First sound you think of after you hear the HBO static?
Boom, boom, boom. You know, there was a short time that it was like the Entourage theme, which is like
very short time.
They use the same music.
Also Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yo, I learned after Game of Thrones was over that the intro had like, it was changing.
Yes. It was amazing.
I never watched it once. I was like, get to the show.
They added like territories, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it showed you like where the episode was gonna be and like what
clue.
Places were in it and characters and
Went
stuff.
every single episode without watching it not even once. Not even the first episode I watched.
Westworld kind of did something like that too.
Yeah.
Like their theme changed based on where like the season was gonna be, and then season 3 was just like not great anymore. But the first 2 were electric.
I mean, to your point, like Netflix, obviously everybody knows, like has the function where you can just hit like skip intro.
Credits, yeah, skip intro.
So there's like, I don't know if you've heard of it or if you've seen it. There's this show called The Pentaveret that's like this Mike Myers show on Netflix that's out now.
Which Mike Myers?
What do you mean, which Mike Myers?
Like Mike Myers, the serial killings.
Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, the good Mike Myers. There you go. Okay.
The good.
Well, he plays
sure
like
about that?
1,000 different characters because he's Mike Myers, and like him and Eddie Murphy have the same deal, right? Where it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna be a lot of different people in costumes, and like that's gonna be like the whole cast, and then we'll get like 4 other people in the thing, right? So like Mike Myers is doing it, and like it has the skip intro button, but if you skip the intro, you miss that the intro every time is different, and it's basically like insulting you or like kind of talking shit to you, like watching it.
Oh wait, it's like, I want to say there was an episode of Big Mouth where they did that, where they're like, no one watches the intro anyway. They're all hitting that button. They're like literally talking about the fact that people are not watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like.
What's the intro you couldn't do without? Like you had to sit through it. Like for me, it's Monday Night Football.
Oh.
What?
You got to sit through the intro of Monday Night Football.
But you don't have a choice.
Well, you do have a choice. Yeah, everyone has a choice, Billy. But I got to sit through Monday Night Football in the open.
I get up and leave during the Sunday Night Football one now. I can't do it.
The helmet's crashing.
PTSD.
That's the intro.
You're thinking of intros, aren't you? I mean, that you have to sit through like old school
I'll tell you
shows.
what. You know what it was, Stugotz? It was NBA on NBC.
Yeah.
Because you get that
Bob
the little speech and stuff.
Yeah.
The Larry O'Brien Trophy is reserved for only the greatest of the greats. Michael Jordan has played for 6 seasons, and he's yet to grasp one. Will he ever? Tonight on NBC. Oh man, ooh, goosebumps.
These are their stories.
By the way, I feel like Dennis Farina is the most Law and Order guy of all time.
Ooh.
Dennis Farina was
Rest
on
in
Law and
power.
Order. Yeah, for a little
No,
bit.
but that show was made for Dennis Farina.
here's
It was
the thing.
made with Dennis Farina in mind.
Here's the thing. No, it was Jerry Orbach. It was made with Jerry
No,
Orbach.
Dennis Farina was on the show too.
He was on. I'm saying he was on the show briefly, but his backstory was he was a cop from Chicago because he couldn't lose the accent. He just kept talking. Yeah, this guy right here. He says that he saw the perp walk down. I'm like, well, you're not a Law and Order guy. Go back to Chicago with that. And that's what Dick Wolf created Chicago for. It's like, I have an idea. Law and Order in a different city. Take it away, boys.
And then you introduce, hang on a second. There are other parts of essential services that we can chronicle on television.
yeah.
Let's do the fire department.
Yeah.
And then we can do a hospital show, because that hasn't been done before.
But you know what's funny? We have a lot of cop shows. We have a lot of hospital shows. We don't have a lot of fire shows, right?
Agreed.
We have only
Well,
a
Rescue Me
handful.
was a fire show.
Rescue Me with Dennis Leary.
Tacoma
Right?
FD.
Chicago Fire.
Tacoma FD is great, by the way. I love that show. Chicago Fire, but that's it. It's like 3 shows.
What is the other aspect of life that has not been chronicled enough on television?
Sports radio.
They've tried.
Would
They've
anyone
tried a
watch
couple
that?
of times, haven't they?
What are the examples you're thinking of? I mean, there was
Wasn't there a show based on like Tony Kornheiser's life?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
It was, and-
What?
Jason Alexander and Malcolm
Yeah.
Jamal
What's it
Warner.
called? What was it called? It was-
I don't remember what the title was.
And there was another show called Sports Night. I don't know if it was
Sports
Sports
Night.
Oh, that
Radio
was a great
or-
show.
or- yeah, Sports Night was a great show. It didn't have a long run, but it was a good show. And I don't think they were trying to do sports radio as much as
They were
they were
doing
trying
Sports
to do.
Center.
Sports Center, yeah.
They're doing
Yeah,
Sports
like
Center,
Sports
yeah.
Center,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I
But
wasn't.
it was a good show.
Frasier? No, Frasier wasn't. No. Now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, there's been like sports media, sports TV, but not sports radio, right? Like so, Ray Romano was a sports writer on.
Right, yes.
The
Everybody
worst
Loves Raymond.
sports writer that has ever lived, Ray Romano.
Why?
You would never see him
'Cause he's
anywhere.
Chris's cousin?
We've never.
We saw him in press boxes on the
great
show.
uncle.
No, we never. Like barely. You never see. It's all about the
did-
family dynamic.
He did have too much of a healthy family life to be in sports.
Yes. No
That's
question.
He's
So
a
true.
home- he's home all the
Romano was
time.
mailing it in. He was never at a game. He was never covering anything. He wasn't at a press conference. He didn't break any news.
Never
he did
giving
nothing.
any.
Actually,
Never
So-
giving any hot takes.
They gave him a satellite TV so he could watch road games.
So he's Greg Cody. Is that what
yeah.
we're saying? Everybody loves Cody. Is that what we're watching? Okay, so we've had radio. Like Martin wasn't a sports radio. He was just
He was a DJ.
DJ, right? He had a radio station, but it wasn't a sports show. Yeah, man.
I mean, the radio station's been done. It was like WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah, but
Right.
not a sport, not sports, right? Not sports. I think we could do it.
Is it just because if it would have no shelf life? Because if you're like covering 2022 sports in 10 years time, if you fire it up on Netflix, like what the hell are they talking
No, you
about?
can't. You can't have like a very special episode. If you do, then it's completely like.
You're just doing
it's
Office
stale,
dynamics then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's The Office, but if The Office was a sports radio show.
Well, that's
I mean,
where the
it'll be
league
the-
is
If
funny.
If only we knew someone who had made a TV show about office dynamics, who likes sports and likes our show too.
It would
Like
be
a
like the
particular
Larry
sports
Sanders
radio
show
show.
of sports, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, true story here. Mike Schur wrote that article, and within 48 hours of him leaving our studios and writing the article, I called him and said, "Are we making a TV show about this show?" And his response was, "We'll see."
That's
but
good.
I pitched it 48 hours after he wrote the article.
What took you so
also
long?
I thought that's where we were headed with the whole thing. It's why I agreed to do the article.
What took you so long, Stugotz?
You asked him to write a book for you also.
Stugotz
did
is,
do that.
Stugotz is losing his fastball.
We need to get this show on TV and syndicated. So they're playing reruns of this show every day on TBS from like 10 a.m. to noon. We will make so much money off of that. I don't know why we haven't done that yet.
They don't.
Dan and I have been in reruns for a decade now.
Charmed.
That's a great joke, Stu.
True.
That's why Billy was laughing so hard.
Because he knows.
Exactly.
And so does Roy.
I never saw these veins on my head before.
Yep.
Yeah, they're bulging actually. I'm a
I
little
would
worried.
say what has breathed fresh life into it is you guys and Amin. Seriously. Otherwise, he and I would still be singing with Greg Cody.
Yeah, singing songs to each other about sports and celebrities. What the hell?
Yeah, well,
Amin, did you watch The League?
I did. Yeah.
It's so funny to see like the people that at the time were like great at the NFL that they obsess over.
Now
like,
there's
they're all
fighting. They're fighting over like Maurice Jones-Drew.
I thought that's what made that show fun, though.
good times.
You can't make that show good. I mean, you cannot make a show about a sports radio show.
You can if it's not about sports.
What would it be about?
It would be
It has
about
to be about the host and their relationship and that dynamic.
yeah,
or-
and the producers that are hate the host, but like, and the host that doesn't goes on vacations and do I have to really write this out for you, Stugotz?
I mean,
It's just you.
I have unlimited days in my contract. What do you
Dude,
want?
I met someone yesterday. It was a bartender, and he said, "Yo, is he really like that?" I was like, "Who? What are you talking about?" I was like, Stugotz really like that." And every time someone asks me that question, I don't know how to answer it because yes, and no, like not completely, but pretty much.
I am what I am, man.
come here, man.
Yo, Mike
Come
Fuentes,
here, man.
that is a terrible pitch. Sports radio would be the setting, but it would have to be dramatized, romance. No,
Wasn't that Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip?
that was whatever the newsroom, right?
No, well, I mean,
Oh God, that show.
Yeah.
oh, the newsroom's great. I'm not having that.
Trash.
I
Very
love
Trash.
the newsroom.
That's
For all of
interesting.
its
When they announced
faults.
the Obama
Because
thing.
Dan is wired to love shows like The Newsroom, and I remember like 3 or 4 episodes in, he enjoyed the first few episodes. It's Sorkin,
Corny.
right?
Corny.
Sorkin
I,
did it?
yeah,
Corny.
it's corny.
Right, and then 4 episodes in, he was like, "Nah, it's not that good."
It's corny.
you know?
It's overwrought, but it's overwritten. But I fucking love shows that are overwritten. It's the
I
best.
just I don't think sports media and sports radio is as interesting to regular people as it is to all of us. But now you can make TV shows that are super niche. It doesn't have to have a broad appeal to get made. So maybe this is the era where you could do it. I just don't think most people give a shit about people who cover sports.
They don't, but I think there's rich content. See, the trick about doing a comedy that's set in sports is it can't be sports specific. Jalen Rose tried this with a pilot, and the whole pilot was about how Jalen Rose and he covers the NBA for ESPN, and here comes Kobe, $81, haha. And it's like what you're missing is that there's a vast segment of the population that's like, I don't get the joke. They don't know any of this stuff, right? Because all the jokes expected you to know something about sports and his sport, basketball specifically. The trick is it just has to be a setting. What Frasier was about, like, he was a radio show host, but it was like talk radio or whatever, and it was supposed to be highbrow talk radio. Nobody, this is America. Who the hell listens to highbrow talk radio? But they made a show that made it funny because it wasn't you didn't have to know or be smart. You just had to like appreciate the inner dynamics of a brother who kind of lives in his shadow and a father who's not like his sons at all, and an au pair, whatever that lady was. I don't know what she was doing while she lived. She like cared for the father, but the father seemed pretty active, and the dog, right? Like that's what Frasier was about. Like,
And the program director.
and the program director, absolutely. So you can make a show. That's why I think we honestly would be a great version of that because A, it's not like we talk sports anyway. B, we have enough characters. We understand that it's character driven. It's not driven on your knowledge of, oh, the Yankees are going to win the World Series and who's going to win the Super Bowl. Like when you make jokes about that, like, remember Super Bowl 42? And no. That doesn't appeal to anybody.
That's actually, I agree. I mean, I think that's why the league was actually like kind of funny among a niche group because they didn't bog you down with like fantasy football
Right.
shit. I watched it because I was like, haha, Nick Kroll.
Ruxin's such an
funny.
asshole, and
Jason
Andre
Mantzoukas.
and
yeah.
Andre is
What
a
a weird
loser,
guy.
and
Yeah.
and Rafi is so crazy. That's
Yeah.
what made the show.
Wild guy.
Right?
So it's just sports radio as a backdrop, and you really
Yeah.
it's just a relationship show
Yeah.
essentially with sports radio as a backdrop, a sports radio station as a backdrop.
Nobody. If we have a whole bunch of jokes about how Stugotz's dream is to go to the Masters or whatever, and like, and it's very exclusive. You have to explain to people why that's such a big deal. That's not funny. If we have a whole show about Stugotz leveraging his connections to get things he wants, like a Mother's Day reservation. That's something that everybody can get with. Then we have a show about we've got a guy who is a grief eater, right? Like the concept of Dan being a grief eater. That's funny. That has nothing to do with sports. We all know that person who likes to wallow in other people's kind of saddest moments. And I think all that, Roy being stoic and Whitty being a fancy lad, like we're already these characters. All we need is someone to write this stuff and make it even funnier. And that's why I want to be Dick Wolf. I came up with the idea. Take it away, Mike Schur. Make my show.
Dick El Hassan.
Would you call it like Sports Radio New York and then branch out to different markets? How would you do that?
In the
Mike
sports
Schur
radio
needs to get
business.
on this. I thought we had an agreement in place that he was going to do this for
Well,
us.
there's the pitch. We'll send it to him.
Right.
Everyone vote yes on the poll so he keeps listening to the show.
I mean, there's a version of this where like season 1 is just the creation of the station. It's the Stugotz burning a millionaire's money to create a sports radio station.
And how long
I
do you
didn't burn
find this
through a
last?
millionaire's
5
money.
years?
He bought the Versace mansion. I mean, what was I supposed to put it on my money?
Or maybe stuff like that is all in flashbacks, right? Like
I think you should start with one of us in therapy week. I mean,